all to ACP International Salon webinar series, creating a mentoring program, mentoring partnerships across the generations. ACP International is very pleased to provide you with this webinar this morning. To everyone on the line, the session is being recorded and will be made available in the members only section of the website. I would like to mention a few housekeeping items before we get started with today's webinar. All attendees will be on mute. There are a few polls, so please answer when prompted. Please also use this question section on your GoToWebinar dashboard to answer questions and ask questions throughout this webinar. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our president, Heather Turnbull.
Thank you, Lane. And on behalf of our international board and members, it's a real delight to feature Annabelle Reitman and Sylvia Benatti today in their great intergenerational mentoring workshop. We've kind of titled this, "Can't We All Just Get Along in the Workplace?" Many of us are working in situations where they're not just 2 or 3 generations, but multi-generations. And there is both delight and sometimes confusion when all of these particular age groups come together and are working in particular around particular projects and strategies that are really important for organizations to achieve. And there is a sense, particularly when HR folks are working on attracting and retaining multi-generations, that we really need to work on better strategies to get the most out of people's talent and to work towards more harmonious outcomes in the workplace. And so for that reason, we have introduced to our membership this notion of intergenerational focus, and in particular having today our guests Sylvia Benatti and Annabelle Reitman. Annabelle is very well known to our members and has a particular focus in the Washington, D.C. area. She's served in leadership positions within our chapter there, as well as in ASTD, now called the Association for Talent Development. She most recently presented to our webinar Salon series with Caitlin Williams last year, following the release of their book through ASTD called Career Moves. And Dr. Sylvia Benatti is joining us as well from Washington, D.C. today. She has over 20 years experience in the nonprofit sector, both as a trainer and consultant and a university professor in the nonprofit management area. So together with Annabelle and Sylvia, we welcome you today and are very much looking forward to your mentoring ideas across the generations. Welcome.
This is Annabelle Reitman, and the introductions have been done already. So let me just tell you the agenda. We're doing learning objectives. We'll be talking about our mentoring partnership model itself. And of course, we need to tell you about the benefits and challenges, and a little description about generations and what that means within the workplace, and the elements to success for this particular type of the program, and the very unique self-matching process for mentoring partnerships. The heart of this process is the partnership agreement, and we'll end with Q&A. So I turn it over to Sylvia and to talk a little bit about what the learning objectives for this session is.
Thanks, Annabelle. I'm excited about being with everyone on this webinar today. So our purpose today is by the end of the session that you'll be introduced to mentoring partnership benefits for talent engagement, productivity, and identifying future leaders. Our second objective is for the participants to understand the mentoring partnership model as a two-way learning experience of mutual benefit. It was intentionally designed for both members of the partnership to gain knowledge. The third objective is for you to be able to appreciate the mentoring partnership that operates across the generations in the workplace.
we're now going to do a little poll because we would like this to be somewhat interactive. And the poll is called, "What do you think?" And the question is, do you agree that the existence of differences among the 4 to 5 generations in the workplace are affecting productivity, retention, engagement, staff development, and succession planning? All of these characteristics can be involved and will happen through a mentoring program. So please take our poll. The choices are yes, you do agree, no, you do not agree, perhaps you're not sure really, or don't know. And the results of this poll will appear, and we'll be talking about them. This is really important in terms of...
Sorry, if you can just hang on one moment. I just have to... Just one moment. Sorry about this. There we are. So we'll just give people a few seconds to answer the question, and I will close the poll, and we can share the results.
These are some of the characteristics that, or the benefits, the outcomes.
All right, we're going to close the poll now.
And that perhaps you haven't really thought of...
So 70% said yes, 20% said perhaps. So the answers of the poll, 70% said yes, 0% said no, 20% said perhaps, and 10% said don't know.
Okay, this is really good in terms of the outcomes are really positive for you to consider the initiation of a mentoring partnership program. And now Sylvia is going to actually talk and describe the model.
So the mentoring partnership model, as I mentioned in the objective, this was intentionally designed and planned to be a two-way inclusive, interactive exchange of insights, knowledge, and expertise, which you all can read. Well, what does that mean? That means that when we looked at mentoring, let me back up really quickly. So this all began, Annabelle and I were presenting intergenerational conversations. We were doing exercises, dividing people by their generation. And what we found is that once we got past some of the barriers and folks got a chance to understand each other a little better, they really did want to learn. The other piece is that we realized that in a traditional mentoring relationship, it pretty much starts out as one-sided. And Annabelle and I are both past presidents of the Metro D.C., formerly ASTD chapter here in Washington, D.C. And one of the things we heard from our senior members many times, and perhaps you've heard some of the same, is that, you know, they would say, great, I come to these meetings and I'm supposed to be teaching other people. When do I get to learn? So that was another thing that we took into consideration from our own experience, that we wanted to create a program that our senior members continue to learn. Boomers are notorious for wanting to continue learning throughout their lives. So we designed something that engaged our senior members and our senior folks in the workplace by giving them opportunities to learn. So, and it's not just about what they can teach the younger generation, but perhaps and often our younger generation brings a lot to the table, a lot of knowledge. Trust me, I'm always looking for new information on technology. So the other piece about that is that both partners, as I've been mentioning, both the participants, regardless of your generation or workplace status, this is an opportunity to learn from each other. One of the things with our younger generation is that it comes out that people are always trying to tell them how to be able to do these things. These are smart young people, and they bring a lot to the table that we can learn from them. So this design gives an opportunity to engage everyone across the board by an opportunity to both teach and to learn. Annabelle?
The next thing that we really want to bring up, because in terms of how you sell, because you're going to have to market this, you're going to have to talk to the people who make the final decisions about new programs, the staff members, is what are the benefits. And so we are going to talk a little bit about the individual benefits first, and then there are organizational benefits as well. For the individual, for the staff members, no matter what their age is or what generation they come from, most people want to expand their knowledge, their insights, and expertise in organizational, personal, and professional arenas as a two-way learning exchange. It's not that they're always in a classroom where they're being lectured to. Number two, would like to develop larger professional networks by having access to a new range of contacts made possible by a mentoring partner. Two people, as you well know, have different people, come from different backgrounds, and so they can enrich each other through a partnership. A unique benefit for this is that everybody can receive customized, desired learning in a one-on-one situation. That is really you to determine when you're going to meet, how you're going to meet, where, and what method. So this is very individualized as a true partnership. And finally, this is a wonderful way to create new and stronger bonding among colleagues.
So Annabelle mentioned that, you need to get buy-in not from an organization, a corporation. This is a model that can be used in professional associations, can be used in a corporation. Actually, I've spoken with the wife of a pastor of a church who thought it would be great to use in their congregation, getting their new younger members acknowledged and involved. So the organizational benefits for this is certainly building leadership and succession planning, because the more senior persons will have an opportunity to teach the others, but it would also give the younger ones a chance for their planning and organizing where they're going with it. As I mentioned, engaging our new talent. It acknowledges what they bring to the table, helps to build, for them to identify with their organization and the culture by building stronger ties and working relationships with everyone across the board. As I mentioned earlier about the model itself, it keeps the interest engagement of the senior level members, not only for passing on their knowledge, but for learning new knowledge. Perhaps they're getting ready for retirement and they can learn some new technology or new interests from the other generation. We don't want to lose retention for many organizations is a major factor. So we want to keep that emerging talent, keep them engaged, and this says to them that the organization really is interested in them and cares about what they bring to the table. Now, are there challenges? Of course there are challenges in everything. So with this, in the workplace, we have a great deal of diversity, not just generational diversity. We have all kinds of cultural diversity. And the mentoring partnership, again, is designed for people to be able to acknowledge and talk about where they're coming from, to learn, again, from each other. Work styles. I would say that, that's one of the things we've heard most often is how, and when we talk about the generations, we have a few notes in there about how the millennials work and how the boomers work, and the point is that they're getting the work done, they just do it differently. So this is, again, an opportunity for us to learn more about each other. The global workforce, again, that goes back to the diversity and the culture. We had a conversation with someone who was interested, and part of their workforce was international. So it was so their key thing was to be able to bring folks together to learn United States culture and the other countries that they were working in. Promotional opportunities, promotional for the employees to be able to gain opportunities and learn more about it, whether it's going up the ladder or across the ladder. So with the boomers, many of the boomers have now retired, or have postponed their retirement. Some of them just aren't ready to quit. They're ready to keep going. They have a lot to contribute. So they're still hard at work. And then the other thing is that we found when we were doing our intergenerational conversations is there are threats across the generations that we learn from each other, and that we do have a lot of the same values and keep living on them.
But there are, so let's just take a quick look at the generations in the workplace. You still have some traditionalists who have not retired. They do not plan to retire as long as they can keep working. And certainly they have major contributions to still make to an organization. But they come from a very different mindset than most of the other generations. One of the major things in their lives was, of course, World War II, which still to this day will impact some of them. You have the baby boomers. Believe it or not, by December 31st, the last of the baby boomers will turn 50. I know it's hard to believe, but that is true. So they're now thinking about retirement, but they look at retirement really differently than a traditional definition of retirement. And so that has to account for it. And for most of them, they're still thinking about working, but in a different way, part-time, volunteer. It's just part of a new way of looking at their lifestyle. Generation X is now starting to move up in the leadership, and is really the smallest, which now leaves lots of room for Generation Y to move up in the organization. And believe it or not, the very oldest of Generation Z is starting to enter the workforce. So in terms of experience and background and knowledge, the workforce has at least 75 years in experience.
Right. So we're hoping some of you will be able to join us in Toronto. The whole part on the generation there's far more information that we would like to share with you in the future. So communication. You know, when you have a partnership of any kind, communication is critical to its success, and establishing a relationship. So there are 4 basic communication characteristics, and of course there's an acronym for it, SMART. Shared meaning, authenticity, respect, and trust. And so we want to just touch on what those 4 components mean. The shared meaning is that you clarify the meaning. Again, we're talking about the difference in the generations here, and sometimes that's the challenge. We're saying the same thing, just in a bit different way. So if we clarify that in the beginning, establishing an environment of openness that welcomes questions, explanations, and acceptance, is a critical foundation piece for it. The authenticity, be genuine. Don't, when you go into this relationship, you need to go in with it with a sincere interest in not only sharing what your knowledge is, but to accept and learn from the other part of the team. So honesty is part of that. Respect. I think that's almost self-explanatory, that you will go in with a sense of mutual respect, that you value and appreciate the other person who's the partnership in this. And the last one is trust. This is certainly the foundation for all communication between any kind of relationship, but particularly if you're building a mentoring partnership, that you want to have a successful collaboration. The trust grows as the partners get to know each other. It is not something that happens the first day you have an handshake on your partnership. The other area, so one of the other things is in doing our research for our book, we've read lots of how to build regular mentorship, traditional mentorship programs, and a couple of the things that we really did not find a lot of reference to was the importance of communications and what that meant. And the other piece was learning style. We all have different ways of learning, and I think it's really important that when we go into these relationships that for us to be able to understand each other and know the best way to learn from each other, there needs to be some reference to understanding the learning style. So there is problem-centered learning, which is focused for folks who are focused on applied solutions rather than the content. I want to know how to get to the bottom line. The second is the results-oriented learning. Leads to an outcome that is relevant to the learner goals. The self-directed learning are generally adult learners and are involved in the development of the learning and outcomes of the evaluation. So they're part of building the learning process. And then acknowledging life experiences. Adult learners come with a foundation of learning. I teach at a university, and that's one of my things when we're presenting is that these young people are adults and that they come with a foundation, and that we need to acknowledge that. And I think that's really true in the partnerships that you're wanting to build.
The next thing we want to, the next item that we want to hit is really the heart of this whole thing. I'm sure you have questions and concerns about, well, how does this process really work? What are the steps for it? First of all, we want to emphasize that entering a program like this in a partnership, the 2 people in the partnership need to make a 6-month commitment. That is what we found out with the minimum amount of time needed to really develop and grow and bond as partners and really to have the learning take place on both sides. The coordinator or the facilitator of the program really needs to be aware that as we set this up, there are actually 4 meetings. We call them steps. Step 1 is the orientation for the people interested in being part of the program. And that begins the matching process, which we will go into further detail a little bit later on in the presentation. And then step 2, all the people who have been matched are brought together for the launch. There is an official launch of the program and the partnership. This is where the partnerships are confirmed. This is where the partnership agreements, which we'll talk about a little bit later, are actually signed and handed over a copy to the facilitator. And that the people involved in the program really begin to bond as a group, that they know that they're not alone in their problems or concerns or anything that might come up. Step 3 is the check-in meeting, where all the partners come together. The facilitator, again, calls all the partners again together, and they can talk a little bit about their experience, share things, and that's 3 months, halfway. There's also a mini assessment about the program, about how it's working and so forth. And then step 4 is at the end of the 6 months, and we call it the closing celebration. And so, and where the final assessment is done.
So let me jump in here half a second. So one of the things that I wanted to add to this information is that, well, with my own experiences in some other mentoring programs, is you connect to people, send them forth to build a partnership, build a mentoring relationship, but there is no sense of structure. There's no feeling of keeping it together. So that's another piece in our design and these steps that Annabelle just reviewed, and why we bring people back together, is that they're part of a cohort of mentoring partners. They're like mentoring partner teams, each partnership. And we feel like it helps keep the energy alive. A lot of times when you're out there by yourself in a mentoring relationship, unless you're really, really determined, or there's just a real great synergy between the mentor and the mentee, they a lot of times fall off. So we felt like if there was a structure that brought people together in their midterm, that if the partnership was getting a little flat, this might help to rejuvenate it.
And also for people to realize that they're not alone in whatever the experience is, and there's support from the other partnership. So let's now talk about the actual matching process, which we consider quite unique because it's a true self-matching process. There is no third party doing the matchup. And this begins when people interested in the program, as I said before, an orientation is planned by the facilitator or coordinator. However, prior to attending this, participants complete an exercise that we are going to do as an exercise, as a sample of what it is to go through this. And so we have, which we will do the exercise right after we complete describing the matching process. And it's, what do I want to learn and what do I want to teach or share? And those 2 questions are completed before coming to the orientation. And at the orientation, and I'm doing this very quickly, very briefly, this description, which we hope to get into more detail when we do the presentation to those attending the Toronto conference. But at the orientation, the information is posted around the wall, and participants then go around to see who's interested in what they're learning, what they're teaching, and they also review to see if somebody's willing to do the teaching of what they would like to learn. And so we hopefully will have the match. And when we did do a pilot study of this in our own professional chapter. And the matches were really quite interesting from a senior experienced person within the training and learning field with somebody just entering or changing their career into it, as well as peers who had about the same amount of experience, but they had different backgrounds. And so the match was made that way. Part two is the exchanging of the contact information, the scheduling of the follow-up of conversation somewhere off-site to confirm compatibility and synergy. And then the last step of this whole matching process is attending the launch meeting that was mentioned before to go over the partnership agreement, to solidify the partnership and receive a workbook as such.
Yeah,
the workbook, which is really important for them, they have already received, once a tentative partnership was made, the agreement, the partnership agreement was given to them. And so this is where everything comes together and the beginning, the launching of partnership. So we'd like now to do this little exercise called what do I want to learn? What do I want to teach? If you were to participate in a mentoring program, what one item would you like to learn? And what one item would you teach or share? In the actual matching process, people give and do write out more than one item, but our time is of essence here. So this will just give you a taste of the information that is used in the self-matching process. Also, once you think about it and write it down, we would also like you to share so we can get an idea of some sharing among the participants about what they'd like to learn and what they would like the teacher share.
So we'll take a few moments and give you a chance to write down your one item you'd like to learn or one item you'd like to teach. And we really would appreciate it, your participation in maybe sharing one or both items for everyone to see, and we will share that with the whole group.
Yeah, I think also by go ahead.
I was just going to say, just a review for everyone, in order to share your answers, please type them in the question section of your GoToWebinar dashboard, and then we will be able to see your answers.
This is just to really get you started to think this way, because it's really a different focus and a different mindset about a mentoring program or a mentoring participation than the traditional one. If you notice, we don't even use the term mentee. This is a mentoring partnership. And so it does call for a different way of looking at how you participate and what you will contribute and what you will get out of it. It really focuses your goals. And so we do hope you will share this with the rest of the group and may give some other people some ideas about how they can participate in a mentoring partnership and what your goals might be in giving up some of your time for this. Because as we said before, it does fall for a 6-month commitment. And we hope it will be a successful commitment and a worthwhile one. I also want to say that we do not guarantee within an actual matching process that everybody will be matched. There's no way, but usually there's enough going on in terms of what people are looking to learn and what people are willing to teach or share that the matching will take place. Sylvia, do you have anything to add to that one?
No, I'm eagerly waiting for our participants to participate.
Yes, we really would like this to be as interactive as it can be. We only have 2 more minutes to do this, so.
Sylvia, do you see the questions that are coming in?
No, we can't. We have. Should we have clicked on them?
Yep, you should click on the question section and expand it and click on the plus sign. If you're not seeing them, I can read them to you.
No, we're still not seeing them.
Right. Okay. I need to be able to expand my screen here. I can see them, but they're really, I can't. Let me see if I can.
You can actually drag out that portion and expand it.
That's
so
what
if you click on the title and drag it to the left, so where it says questions, click on the question and drag it to the left. Did that work?
No, not yet. Trying to, wait a minute, show and, no, maybe we may have to rely on your assistance.
Not a problem.
Sharing some of the questions because I'm trying to wait a minute, maybe. I dragged it. Now let me see if I can expand it.
The bottom right-hand corner.
There we are.
The awesomeness of technology.
Okay.
Yes.
I can't read it.
So, with a connection to Myers-Briggs or DISC or other style assessments studied in the success of the mentoring process? I would say not directly. Most of our research was done primarily, like I said, on communication, on learning styles. I think that that's a great idea. Annabelle and I are always looking. For us, this is a dynamic process. It's not a one shot. So, like one of the newest things that we're really investigating on mentoring is biases and what people's biases bring to the table. Yeah. So adding this piece, this dynamic of either if the Myers-Briggs or DISC would make a factor, that's an interesting thought. So thank you, Sylvia, for referring to this as a cohort to keep a lively structure to engage. It really does. We did do this in the pilot, and we talked to other folks that, again, we've seen where mentoring projects kind of fade away without that kind of reinforcement. So we're really fast. Don't need to be. We're just trying to cover a lot of material.
Yeah, within an hour.
Right. Somebody, can't see this, said something about the share career search process. Is there more to that question that I'm not seeing, or is it?
I think that's the answer to the second question. What one item would you teach or share? So I assume a career search process.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks. So it seems to me that in the field of career professionals, and interestingly enough, I actually have a bit of background in that. I was actually a director of career services at a small women's college at one time. So we all need to learn from each other, especially when you're newer to the field, as I was. So you would like to learn, can this mentoring partnership take place virtually or over GoToMeeting webinars? Another thing we are looking at
in virtual,
right.
It's taking this virtually.
Right.
And we are actually tonight doing a demonstration of the matching process with the new chapter leaders that have come in from all over the country for ATD or ASTD. And if we actually get matches, Sylvia and I have talked about being the virtual facilitators.
Right.
And we may very well have a match from a chapter in California and a chapter in Boston.
Right.
So they will be our pilot, our guinea pig here.
Yes, the exciting part about this, when we started this, actually there's been a few articles in the T&D Journal and others that have talked a little bit about this, it was just a small seed of an idea, and we're just finding this more and more. Okay, let me get through this. Spend time of day and ideas for keeping participants engaged. Yes, that's a great thing that somebody could teach me. I could do that with my students. So learn Excel and web development. See, there are always things we want to learn. Well, thank you for participating in our little exercise. Let's move along here.
And Sylvia is now going to talk about the partnership agreement.
And I got to close something evidently. Move the slides along.
There we go.
Limit. Sure.
There we go.
Right. Okay. One of the other things that's unique about this program is a partnership agreement. We have found a form where the participants identify what their goals are for learning, how they're going to know that they've resulted, and how they're going to communicate, how often they're going to meet. They put all of these pieces together in this agreement. So they have well-defined goals, they have a work plan for learning activities and the tools that will be used for the success criteria. They set ground rules. Again, this goes to the communications for positive, harmonious relationships. Boundaries and barriers. We have to be clear about where that fine line is, and how do we handle that? Again, that's a sometimes a cultural thing. Procedures for handling stumbling blocks. There are stumbling blocks. And honesty and openness and communications is one of the best places to start. And then accountability and review of the mentoring partnership progress. One of the other forms that we've created is an accountability form. The coordinator keeps a copy of this agreement, so that, of course, the partners have a copy of this agreement. So there is some serious structure in how we're doing it. And
I just want to add that this is one of the main reasons for that midterm meeting where people review. They can talk about if they've hit stumbling blocks, maybe another partnership can as well, and they can, share. Or if there is a problem, other people can do some bouncing of ideas. So it's really a place to get everybody together. That is really a place for trust, for bonding, but for the willingness to share without criticism and so forth. And also the last thing I just wanted to say was this is the place also where changes in the agreement might be discussed, because the agreement that was originally made is not written in blood, as they say, and there can be changes. So, summarizing. Okay, let me just summarize what we have covered in this, very quick, somewhat hurried way. At least I feel that way. Of what's the, of a mentoring partnership program. The intentional mutual learning, extremely important, extremely basic. The unique self-matching process, that you have a stake in the match of who your partner will be. The range of benefits, both at the individual and organization level. The elements of a successful mentoring experience, as well as the further exploration of the mentoring partnership approach. We did not feel when we did design and develop this that this was our final draft. And so we will see how far this develops and the pathways it will take. So we have one last little poll that we'd appreciate your participation in. And the question is, how interested are you or your organization in initiating a mentoring partnership model? Lane has opened the poll for us. There are 5 choices. Very likely, likely, somewhat, unlikely, or not at all likely. Please let us know. Thanks.
So I'm just going to give people a second or two more just to answer the poll question, and then the polls will close. Okay, so I'm just going to close the polls, and I will tell you the outcome.
Okay.
So 17% very likely, 33% likely, 33% somewhat, 17% unlikely, and 0% not at all likely.
Wow. At least there's a possibility. That's awesome.
And so now we'd like to open this up to any further few questions that you might have. And you can see the contact information for us on your screen. And really, we would love to hear from you in terms of your interest, anything you would like to suggest or recommend to us, whatever. And our website is up, and so please visit it if you can. But we have really enjoyed doing this presentation. Wish we had more time. No further thoughts?
No, please. Anyone have any questions that we can possibly answer in the next few minutes, or perhaps Heather has some other announcements?
Sure. Well, actually, thank you, Sylvia and Annabelle. Before we formally thank you, I do have a question, and I'll just give people time to type in their questions. The value add for mentoring has a certain place for HR professionals, and especially those doing career development work and career management work within organizations and on behalf of clients. Can you comment on the value add for career professionals if they're introducing mentoring, particularly to organizations who don't have a formal process, but are having some challenges facilitating intergenerational conversations, communication, teamwork, etc. This mentoring is quite widely appreciated, but I think little understood, and certainly from what you've presented here today, and as I've reviewed the book, which is very user-friendly, simple model, very accessible, etc. Where's the value add for career professionals in introducing this model, as well as the whole topic of mentoring to their clients?
Annabelle? Okay, I'll jump in there. Annabelle's the actually resident expert, so we take turns in answering some of these things. I would say that part of the initiating the conversation, I think that engagement, we find that keeping people engaged leads to higher levels of productivity, for sure. So if they're, like I mentioned in the presentation, if we have, you know, not only the senior member feeling valued that they have something to teach, but our junior, more newer members of an organization, if they're being asked to teach and to share what they know, you know, that sends a big message to your newer employees. And it also sends a message to your senior folks that it isn't just about giving, but about them also being able to receive knowledge.
And it also gives them permission that it's okay to receive. You know, sometimes senior level people, oh, somebody's going to wonder why I want to learn or expand. After all, I have all this experience and knowledge. So it gives them permission. But it also, with the younger members, which we haven't even touched, it's the self-confidence within themselves. Oh my God, I am actually teaching or sharing with a senior level executive some of my background, and they're really listening to me. I think that is so cool and so good, and that helps with the retention of your bright young employees who may want to think about going off somewhere else.
Yes, because since our more senior generation is not going anywhere, you know, and the young people want to move up in the organization, you know, and there's kind of this feeling, because we still have the boomers there, but if they can continue to learn from each other and they're valued for that, I think that helps to keep them engaged and retained.
And yes, if they can actually do an application of what they have learned, both the senior people and the younger people in their own jobs or new assignments, then the retention and engagement will remain. I do want to just see if we have any questions, because we're coming close to the end of the session.
And I want to add one quick thing, that when we do, when you put up, what do I want to learn, what do I want to share, we usually put up 3 categories. One is oftentimes professional development, sometimes it's something in the organization, and then it can also be something personal, that if you're wanting to do that. So again, opportunities for learning and sharing
are also widened, and there's much more. It goes back to what I said about in an actual match, there's much more, there's a better chance of it because there are more items being put up.
So Lynn, I think I accidentally closed when I was moving the question box. I'm not seeing it on our dashboard.
No
so
problem.
If we have any questions, please share them with us.
Yeah, at the moment we don't have any questions, so I think everything is kind of wrapping up.
Actually, we do have one question that came through the website, so if I might ask that on behalf of the member. The question is around culture and cultural diversity in the workplace. If in your research for the book you experienced or came across some examples of the value of mentoring and your mentoring partnership and in facilitating understanding around multi-cultures in the workplace, that would be useful to have in terms of how we can make better application and operationalize, for want of a better word, mentoring in the workplace.
Right.
What did you discover around culture?
Well, I think that one of the other beauties of our model is its flexibility, because you can set the context for identifying what you want to learn and what you want to share. So if part of the context is, I want to learn, is learning more about other cultures, you can frame it in such a way to introduce that question. To be honest, no, we haven't. But in my own profession, in higher education, cultural competency is very important to us. And so that's another piece that I think that we have an opportunity to expand on. And I do see where the model, because again of its flexibility and where it can be used. You know, we refer to the fact that it can be used in higher education, it can be used in professional association, it can be used, I mentioned a church, where they were interested in using it within their congregation. So I think that, again, it's giving, as Annabelle said, giving permission and opening it to people asking, saying, I want to learn more about this question, or I want to share more about my particular culture. If that's a value in that organization, or if it's deemed to be a value, that can be part of the exercise.
And also, we never set where they're going to meet. They could meet in a restaurant of one of the people's cultural background. And share learning about different foods to get a better understanding. Right. So it's also learning about different cultures. Or we've had interest expressed in our book by a consulting firm from China, and it's possible they would set the partnership within their own cultural, that was context and boundaries. I hope that sort of touches an answer for you.
Indeed, and it certainly lends itself to the integrity of your model, which is a very giving one, and it is very much one of reciprocity and appreciation. Part of the challenge of some mentoring programs and organizations is that it's very difficult for both parties in that partnership to maintain momentum in the midst of very busy work lives. And certainly when you're in a position where you're both giving and receiving from each other, that tends to add much more credibility to the process, as well as that momentum.
Right, and also we just talk about a 6-month commitment, but it doesn't count, it allows still for people to continue beyond the 6 months. So it can go on, it can even, the two people can develop a different level of relationship. So there's a lot of possible options here.
Indeed. Any final comments from either of you on the presentation today, Annabelle or?
I just wish, and I probably can talk to Sylvia as well, that we had more time to really go into some of the details. But again, if any of the listeners will be at the conference, just come up and introduce yourself. Right? We would love to meet you. We hope that you'll be there. We do plan on part of our presentation. We'll be doing a little exercise work. Yeah. Yeah, we do very interactive kind of presentations. And so I think on that note, we'll say thank you and appreciate that you took the time to listen in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've been in conversation with Dr. Annabelle Reitman and Dr. Sylvia Benatti, talking about their mentoring program, creating a mentoring program, mentoring partnerships across the generations. If you've liked what you've heard today, their book is available on Amazon.com and trade paperback through ASTD Press. But even better, if you love a signed copy and to engage with the authors and experience the mentoring partnership program, please join us at the
international conference for ACP International. It's our 25th anniversary, November 6th to the 8th in Toronto, Canada. You can find more information on the conference, including accommodation and transportation, at acpinternational.org. Just click on the Conference 2014 tab. We'll have, Friday evening, we'll have a great anniversary celebration. We have now full as well as single-day registration conference options, so if you only have time to invest in one day, make it one that produces a great return for you, whether you're in a corporate HR role or a single practitioner. The richness of the content is very appealing. Back in late fall, we invited our members and alumni to participate in a pre-conference survey around content that they would most desire to experience at our conference, as well as a variety of other input. And we also promised that we would have a draw for a full conference registration for one of the participants in that survey. And we're absolutely delighted to announce the winner of the full conference registration is Winnie Downs. Winnie Downs, many of you will know, is the founder, one of the founders of our association, and we're absolutely thrilled to be honoring her and to be hosting her at our international conference here in Toronto, November 6th to the 8th. So, if you have not registered yet, we encourage you to do so. The content is fabulous, including our presenters here today, Annabelle Reitman and Sylvia Benatti. We thank them on behalf of our International Board members and alumni and look forward to seeing all of you in Toronto in November. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.